Hey, thanks for tuning in. If we don't know each other, I'm Charlene Stiles, holistic nutritionist and holistic life coach, predominantly for mid-age women that have hormone imbalances, weight issues, and metabolic dysfunction. I suspect that you are here today because you have a similar complaint to that of many of my clients. It's either potentially stubborn weight, hormone imbalances, pesky symptoms of brain fog, lethargy, fatigue, anxiety, just feeling meh, or maybe even some perimenopause or menopause symptoms like hot flashes, trouble sleeping, those sorts of things. If this sounds like you are definitely in the right place. I want to help you shortcut and understand that the issues that you are going through, although they seem very unique and that you can't solve them potentially, that you are not alone. Many women are exactly in your spot. So I want to, first of all, acknowledge that. And second of all, let you know that the reason they feel so unique is that we've been just chasing down old, outdated principles and strategies to get things back into harmony. We have been conditioned to focus on eating less and exercising more as our health strategy to bring our body back into balance. And what if it's the opposite? What if it's actually move more and eat more to support your own unique body and biochemistry? One of the key problems that I find is that many of my clients just do what worked for someone else and not for them specifically. Chasing calories and exercising more can actually impact your health, your body, your weight, your hormones, everything that you may be trying to rectify in a negative way rather than a positive way. So it's my desire today to shed a light, to shine a little bit of a spotlight onto the notion of balancing blood sugar, managing what happens in your gut, really understanding gut health and feeding the good bacteria in your digestive tract, how that can help balance your hormones and reduce inflammation and get you to your ideal weight. So this is my quest today, is to give you a sneak peek behind the curtain of why what you're doing may not be working and getting you the results that you truly desire. I am speaking from my heart today, just off the cuff, because I have so many women come to me with the same issues. So whether you work with me, continue to, or have worked with me, want to work with me, or don't work with me, I hope that I can instill these key factors for you to take with you for the rest of your life to balance your weight, your hormones, your energy, your mood, how you feel, how you think, how you show up in life. And it comes down to these three things: managing blood sugar, protecting the state of your gut, so gut health, and also reducing inflammation. These three are all interlinked and have a direct impact on our hormone function. So, first, if we talk about blood sugar regulation, if I can encourage you to eat for the sake of balancing blood sugar and not concern yourself with the caloric value of the foods that you're eating, to really understand how the body works rather than focusing on how much calories is in a particular item that you're putting in your mouth. So the first thing is, when we're talking about blood sugar balance, is understanding a little bit of, just a tiny little bit of biology. When we eat something, particularly if it has carbohydrates in it, it's going to increase our glucose levels. That's our increase our blood sugar. So that's the glucose that's circulating in our blood. As soon as glucose is increased in the blood, the pancreas is woken up and triggered to release insulin. And that insulin's job is to take all that glucose in the blood and distribute it to where it's needed. So into the muscles to use as energy for activity, or stored in the liver. Now, both of those two, if they're already at maximum capacity or their storage locker is full, what ends up happening is all of that other glucose gets stored as fat to be used later. So first I will just say that the excess glucose getting shunted to muscles and liver both have very small storage capacities. And if we don't have the immediate need, most of that, generally most of the time, gets stored as fat. So when we have a really high increase in blood glucose level, it's almost like insulin is like a keener and does too good of a job, and it comes around and sweeps up all the streets and gets rid of all of the debris, which is glucose, and shoves it off behind the cabinet door where nobody can see into the fat cells. And then what happens is it's almost like an overcorrection, and your body is now starving for carbohydrates and for energy because there's no more glucose left in the blood. So this triggers the next phase, which is craving for more carbohydrates and or sugar. So this is a biological response. This is why we have cravings for more carbs and more sugars. There is not something wrong with your level of motivation or your commitment. This is really biology at at force here. So if we can keep the blood sugar levels from spiking and then crashing, what will happen is a more even energy levels, but also um, getting us away from storing so much fat. If we can really figure out, and I'll tell you how to do this, if we can really figure out how to keep insulin levels at bay and regulated, insulin will either be a fat storage hormone or a fat burning hormone. So I don't think that's quite accurate. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. When insulin is released, it's storing fat. If you can control it to not be triggered so often and in such high magnitudes, that can promote fat burning versus fat storage. I hope that clarifies things. Sorry, I misspoke on that. So the key way to balance insulin levels is to eat balanced meals. I know it sounds super basic, and it kind of is. There are three key macronutrients that we need to consider when we are talking about eating for health. There's only three ways that we're going to get energy: from proteins, carbohydrates, or from fats. So if we have each of those three macronutrients at every single meal, we're going to have a balance of all of the macronutrients to keep insulin levels in check. Now, the key is the ratios, and that will depend from person to person what the exact ratios are. So you can have a tiny little bit of protein and a whole bunch of carbohydrates, and that's still going to create a glucose spike. So we want to make sure that we're having balanced proportions of proteins to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates come from vegetables, legumes. We're not talking, yes, okay, as starches too, but that's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about complex carbohydrates that have a lot of fiber, a lot of nutrients, and a lot of health value when we consume them. So balanced portions of protein and carbohydrates and a small amount of fat. So generally I'm looking for at least 1 tablespoon, 1 to 2 tablespoons of fat at every meal. That's going to help blood sugar levels stay balanced. The other key factor here is to not, do not snack. Every time we eat, that glucose response is happening. So the less that, and I'm not saying fasting, that I was going to say the less we eat, the less glucose spikes that we have, which is accurate. But in order to balance the blood sugar, most predominantly, if you are trying to rectify your metabolism and some pesky health issues, I would start 100% wholeheartedly with eating 3 balanced meals a day, 5-ish hours apart, and have all 3 of the macronutrients at every single meal. That's going to help balance your blood sugar levels to start with. Proteins, complex carbohydrates that contain fiber, and a nice quality fat. What's a quality fat, you may ask? Things like avocado oil, ghee, coconut oil, olive oil, flaxseed oil, ground flax seeds. These are all nice quality, good quality, healthy fats. So we talked about blood sugar regulation. That is the key. The next thing is our gut health. How do we ensure that our microbiome is in check? Everything that we eat is either going to contribute to feeding the good bacteria in our GI tract, in our digestive system, or feeding the bad bacteria. So things that feed the good guys are fibrous foods. So fibrous fruits and vegetables, these are really helpful. The good bacteria flourish by having good bacteria. Same with fermented foods and things like uh, kimchi, sauerkraut, those kinds of things are going to help feed the good guys. The bad guys love things like processed foods, simple carbohydrates, pastas, breads, things that turn to sugar really quickly, sugar itself, alcohol. Those are all fertilizers for the bad bacteria. So you may know that our microbiome is really the metropolis. It's like a city where it there this is where all of the magic happens. It's central control station that's happening inside of our gut. There's a two-way communication that's happening between our gut and our brain through the gut brain axis. And what's happening in our gut is sending chemicals through nerves to our brain and vice versa. So it's imperative that you understand the state of your gut and feed the good guys as best as you can. Whole foods from plant sources that have a lot of fiber. Also, to make sure you get proper hydration here. Getting an adequate amount of water is not going to only help with the whole digestive process to break down the foods that we take in and to break down the foods into usable nutrients and allow the cells to use them, those useful nutrients, to thrive, to first of all use them for the function that they need to build the cells to keep them functioning and operating, but also for them to multiply and to continue living. So water is going to help deliver the nutrients to the cells that need them, and then also flush away all of the metabolic waste, all of the debris, the toxins, the waste that is no longer needed. So water is super, super important in any aspect of health, but more so for gut health and removing inflammation. The next thing that we need to talk about in terms of gut health is how you can support the state of your gut by managing your stress, having ways that you can unwind and relax, techniques, lifestyle practices, things like yoga, meditation, breathing exercises, just grounding yourself, ways to unplug and really allow yourself to heal and rest. And speaking about rest, sleep is also another vital contributor to how your body operates. This is the place where not only is our mind kind of sorting out all the daily activities and information and putting it into, to the storage files, what's also happening is this is the most critical time that our bodies do the healing and repairing. So this is super important to make sure you're getting adequate amount of sleep. What's adequate? 7 to 9 hours, minimum 7 hours. I mean, you can't force yourself to go to sleep, but you can force yourself to stay in bed for that length of time and give yourself and your body that environment to rest, heal, and repair. So 7 to 9 hours. So we've talked about gut health, how to feed it healthy foods that feed the microbiome, which is predominantly fibrous rich foods and things that are fermented. You can even consider here probiotics and prebiotics. You can talk to your natural healthcare practitioner of which ones may be suitable for you in terms of supplemental form if you are trying to heal your gut. We've talked about blood sugar, we've talked about the gut, and the third thing is the inflammation. Now, you may know, that the state of our gut, if it's imbalanced, creates inflammation. And inflammation is actually a very useful tool in our body. Our body, it's a short-term response to an acute problem. Inflammation allows the body to heal and repair. It's just a signal that, hey, something's wrong over here. Let's go and put all hands on deck and deal with that inflammatory response. It's like an invader has just come in, and let's deal with that threat and the thing that's affecting our functioning. So inflammation in short term is really good. It protects us from injury and further using maybe that organ or that system or that joint. But it's when chronic inflammation, that's the long term inflammation, that's really the most detrimental. So when our gut is impaired, that leads to inflammation. We have high levels of stress, that leads to inflammation. High glucose levels and constantly spiking and then crashing leads to inflammation. So inflammation is a true d- offender. How it gets to you is probably different than someone else, but most often, inflammatory disorders and imbalances come from our gut. So the state of our digestion leads to inflammation. And then when there's inflammation, basically what's happening is our system and our how our body communicates uh, to different processes and functions is through hormones. So there's these little signals that are sent through neurotransmitters, and when we are full of inflammation, that signal gets really muffled. It's like it's under murky water and swampy water. So those communication signals don't happen clearly between the organs and the systems and the functions. I know this sounds super simplified, and I am super simplifying it to keep this message short today. All of that to say, when there is chronic inflammation, our hormones cannot clearly communicate to one another. So we have a problem with hunger hormones, how full we feel, our ability to sleep, how the production of serotonin, our feel good hormones, the production of our sleep hormones, of melatonin. So all of this is intertwined, our body's ability to communicate and operate optimally when we have these imbalances, the imbalance of blood sugar, of poor microbiome or gut health, and also of inflammation. So these are the three things we need to face and address when we're dealing with hormone issues and metabolic issues, not the calories. It's more about the quantity and what proper foods are suitable for you. So the what to eat, the when to eat, and then we can even factor in the how to eat. So those are the three things that I would urge you to consider when you're looking at your imbalances rather than calories and working out more. And I'll just add on the exercise that we think may be so helpful and be the thing that gets us to lose weight because we know we need to expend more energy can actually be more harmful than good. If your body is already under attack with all kinds of inflammation and the microbiome is imbalance. You have the bad guys running the show instead of the good guys. If you have all these spikes of glucose and all your body is doing is constantly storing fat, you've got a ton of inflammation going on and a ton of stressors that are happening in your body. And you add one more level of stress in, which is exercise, that can actually be adding more harm than good. I know there are amazing health benefits from exercise. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I stand behind exercise, but the right type of exercise at the right time for the right person. So those are all things to factor in. Back to the exercise piece, I just want to highlight that while exercise is a beautiful thing and very necessary for us as humans to keep doing, if we are under siege and stress from all of these factors that I just talked about, and we add one more thing of vigorous activity of exercise, if we think about what exercise does in the short term, it actually is an acute stressor. That means an immediate stress. What happens in the body when we lift heavy things? We break down muscle tissue so that it can rebuild to be stronger muscles. So the immediate response and effect of exercise is stress, and that's how we get stronger from it. But if you are already stressed in so many different ways, not just the physical ways that I talked about, but add on the mental, emotional, psychological aspects of stress, and we add in this another level of stressor, of exercise, we're just increasing more cortisol, more fat storage, more stress, more inflammation. So I just want to highlight the exercise more and eat less is not the answer. Understanding your blood sugar, how your gut works, and inflammation truly is. I truly hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you want to know more about how I address this personally, I'd love to have a chat with you and we can explore my methods of how I assist my clients. If you don't, I hope that you can take something from this and implement it into your life so that it's helpful for you. And even if nothing else, if you just recognize that the problem is not you, it's the approach that you're using that is wrong, not you. Bye, my friend.